Well, church, I am sick. I've got this really bad cold. It's not COVID, it's an off brand knockoff, but it's nasty. And I haven't been able to work much this week. And I'm making plans to not be with you on Sunday for multiple reasons. Even if I get over this, I'm just exhausted from it. But also, I really don't want to give this to you. Even if I'm getting better, I don't want to risk sharing this with someone, especially in the age of COVID. Getting an off brand still messes with life. So I will not be with you. Now, I am not one who believes that God causes suffering to get to their ends, even the minor suffering of a bad cold. But I am one who believes, as Romans 8:28 tells us, we know that in all things God works for the good of those who are called according to God's purposes. And, I do believe that the small community in a beautiful building spread out across distances and disability by way of Zoom is called according to God's purposes. In the last couple of months, we've been digging deep into what it means to be called according to God's purposes. We've been wondering, what are God's purposes for us? And so when I realized too late to book Pulpit Supply that I wasn't going to be well enough to preach for the first time that I've been with you, for the first time in 5 years almost, I paused to ask Spirit, so how you planning to work this for the good of this community called to your purposes? And Spirit whispered that Pride is coming up. And Spirit whispered that Pentecost is coming up. And Spirit whispered that the people at Pentecost spent days leading up to it in deep prayer and study, wondering about what's next, active wondering about what's next. And Spirit whispered that the people remembered the whole story of God to prepare for the next chapter of the story of God. And Spirit whispered that we should diligently do likewise. As we prepare for the sacred intersection of Pentecost and Pride on June 5th, we should prepare diligently. So today, our pulpit supply comes to us from your history. It's Deborah Peavy's revolutionary sermon that surveyed God's history and projected it into a faith for the future. It is our invitation to do so again, to remember the story and project it as faith for the future. I want to particularly draw your attention to the gift, or the charism, as Kurt might call it, our community has for drawing the circle wider. I want to particularly draw your attention to Jesus' words in John 20 from a few weeks ago. It was our Easter 1 text. It's also a text known as John's Pentecost. The Spirit is given, and we're told to make peace with it. And we're told that Spirit empowers us to bind and unbind. And Spirit is one who, in this church, has unbound the restraints of exclusion and bound together sacred siblings in a family not of our choosing, but of Spirit's. This Easter season, we live in between those Pentecosts, the giving of the Spirit who binds and unbinds, who breathes peace to and through us, and the second Pentecost of it's just full of wild empowerment and visions to carry an ancient faith into the future. So today, as pulpit supply for your sick pastor at the Providence of Spirit, today we revisit this story from one of our heroes of faith. Like an ancient founder of faith, this sermon is like a well where we met our God once, where God met our needs once, and we can return to this well to remember it, to remember who we are, what we believe, who we can be, what change can be made through us, and how Spirit moves in and amongst us. So come and sit with this sermon. Let it be a well. Come and let it hydrate your parched soul, and let the living waters animate a faith for the future. I wonder what faith for the future Spirit is calling us to. I wonder what the Spirit of Pentecost, who brought you through prayer and courage to be a people of pride, is calling us to. I wonder how Spirit is calling us to draw the circle wider in the future. I wonder what call is waiting for us at the intersection of Pride and Pentecost on June 5th. Join me now in revisiting this sacred space for our community.